What is going on, YouTube? So I got a few more videos I wanted to do today, just covering the college football landscape and some stuff going on right now in that regard. So I haven't jumped over to the SEC or the ACC a whole lot this season, but I wanted to touch on those a little bit. I have a Clemson video coming up next, but wanted to touch on South Carolina here. Hopefully this is something the South Carolina fans want to hear. I know there's been a lot of frustration boiling over lately with the Will Muschamp tenure. Now, let me note that this is an incredibly weird year. Buys sometimes are very large, and it's hard to come up with the funds for that during a pandemic year compared to what might be a normal year. So I don't put a whole lot of stock for a head coach that might be on the hot seat anyway. Most of these videos that I'm making are either just huge legitimate concerns coming about this season from a situation where a head coach should have won, or something spilling over from previous seasons. The Muschamp bucket fills into something spilling over from previous seasons, because I never liked that hire so much in the first place. And every single year where South Carolina has decided to keep Will Muschamp, I've become a little bit more annoyed by that situation. I'm not a huge South Carolina fan by any means, but originally from the Carolinas, so I hope all the schools there do well when they're not playing, my alma mater. So let me dig into kind of the first reason here, and that's going to be just general lack of success, not a whole lot of prominence. The program's not trending up. There's a whole lot of reasons why South Carolina fans should be concerned about the sustainability of this program. So South Carolina holds a record 2-4 right now. I believe they have 2 wins in SEC play. Well, granted, I don't think any SEC teams played a non-conference game, but there are 2 wins coming over Vanderbilt, lowly team there, and then most impressive coming over Auburn. Granted, Auburn's not what we thought they were this year. So that one, it looked like at one point South Carolina was turning a corner. They were fairly competitive. Tennessee, again, a lot of preseason hype. That game could have gone either way. And then Florida, they remained fairly competitive against a really good Florida team. But everything's kind of fallen off the rails here in the last 2 weeks. An LSU team that is largely rebuilding. They just got curb stomped 52-24. Texas A&M was even worse last week. Again, a good Texas A&M team, but 48-3, it shouldn't have happened. And they have an opportunity to finish off the season on a high note, but who knows the way that Ole Miss game is going to go this week, or was it this weekend or next? This weekend. They still have Missouri, Kentucky, and Georgia on the schedule. That's going to be a really pissed off Georgia team, so that one might get a little bit ugly, but we'll see. South Carolina, they pretty much have to – well, no, they don't have to win out, but they'd at least have to win, 3 of their last 4 to get a spot in the postseason. And what was a makeable – year for the postseason for them. So anyway, let me dive in. So again, the first reason why is just the overall lack of on-field results. So digging back beyond the 2020 season, Will Muschamp hasn't brought a whole lot of success to South Carolina. They had a good season in 2017, finished 9-4. That was great. Don't know how they didn't finish in the top 25 that season, but they didn't. There is not a single season where Will Muschamp has taken South Carolina to a top 25 finish. I don't think they've ever been ranked in the top 25 in the preseason under his direction. We're talking about a coach that, and even at Florida, he kind of tanked that. I won't say tanked that program, but he definitely wasn't a good head coach for them before. I believe that was before. Oh man, I'm losing the head coach that had taken over after him in Florida. Jim McElwain. He really did not do good under before Jim McElwain took over at Florida either. But I just, like I said, overall lack of on-field results. This stems beyond his time at South Carolina. His total record at this point at South Carolina, I can pull it up here, 28-29 in 5 seasons, and then 1-2 in bowl seasons. Again, that 2017 season was solid, but since then, 7-6, 4-8, and currently 2-4. Those numbers definitely speak for themselves. Johnny, long time no talk, but I think his best role is definitely going to be as a defensive coordinator somewhere. He was Texas DC before starting to launch his career as a head coach, which hasn't gone very well. So I want to get into the second point here, and that's kind of player mismanagement. The quarterback situation is something to behold this year for South Carolina. Luke Doty has gotten most of the work to the avail of 5 passing touchdowns and 5 interceptions and a whole lot of sacks. South Carolina's offense has been really ugly of late. They're averaging about a little under 25 points per game, good for 92nd in the FBS. Excuse me, not Luke Doty, Colin Hill has been the starting quarterback for most of the season. I think it's probably going to be Ryan Helinski moving forward. But again, these are this is a quarterback situation where I think they could have been going a lot better than they are at this point. It's kind of been a waste of a season too for solid, at least a solid starting running back in Kevin Harris. He's almost got 700 total yards from scrimmage, 9 touchdowns. So he's had a solid season so far. Any potency in the passing game has largely been held back. Shi Smith is a really good wide receiver. He's a good skill position weapon. Again, they don't have a quarterback or not that can get him the ball, or an offensive line can hold up long enough to let the quarterback get him the ball. I just, from any friends that I have that are South Carolina fans, I know that the quarterback situation has been the biggest frustration. And usually the strength of South Carolina is their defense, specifically lately their pass defense, because they've had some pretty good cornerbacks roll through Columbia. But even that this year, not very good. Giving up 33 points per game, good for 82nd in the FBS. They're also giving up more than 250 passing yards per game, around a 64% completion percentage, and about 2.5 passing touchdowns per game. The turnovers aren't really there either. The turnover margin, while it is even, they're getting about 1.3 turnovers per game. So again, in years past where that's been better, that has largely faltered this season. So again, I don't think there's a whole lot of positives for Will Muschamp as far as his coaching situation goes at South Carolina and even at Florida. I don't think he was a very good head coach. I didn't like the hire in the first place, and I think he's been there for way too long, and this is a long overdue discussion and potential departure. Now, this is always the final thing that I wrap everything up with, because I know that this is not, a lot of people are, what have you done for me lately? What have you done for me now? But with the early signing period coming up, it's really important to focus on what they've done on the recruiting trail. The 2021 class does not look great. To be honest, they're barely inside the top 50 in the nation in the 247 Sports Composite national class rankings. They have 1 4-star commit. If you're just looking if you're looking at the 247 Sports Composite, they have like 5 or 6 commits that rank outside the top 1,000 prospects in the nation in the 247 Sports Composite. Could those prospects turn into something good? Absolutely. Is that a good sign for an SEC program that's trying to remain relevant while you have programs like Georgia, Florida, that are, starting to kind of take over in the SEC East again? No, that's a really bad sign. So the 2022 class, this is about the only positive on the recruiting trail right now for South Carolina. They do have one of the best quarterback commits in the nation. They got Gunnar Stockton, 5-star quarterback coming out of, I believe, Tiger, Georgia. Now, he committed back in August, and I don't know what the situation or how firm his commitment is. I know that, at least from covering recruiting, I know Alabama's gone pretty hard after him. And there's just a lot, like the whole quarterback situation for the 2022 recruiting cycle right now is very volatile. You got the decommitment of Quinn Ewers from Texas. Malik Murphy is one of the most highly sought after quarterbacks in the country, but it's hard to get a good idea of where he's leaning right now. I know we still have a long time until the early signing period for December 2021 arriving, but usually you have a little bit more clarity in the quarterback picture than this, because who knows how long Gunnar Stockton's going to stick around for. Again, I'm not sure how firm his commitment is to South Carolina, but yeah, I know that there's at least been whispers of him looking elsewhere, staying in contact with other schools. It's still fairly early on, and anytime there's whispers of coaching instability at the school or at a school that a prospect's committed to, there's always that possibility of him at least looking elsewhere. At least with Stockton, their 2022 class ranks inside the top 25 in the country, but again, 2021's not looking great. 2020 was pretty good. I believe it was a top 25 class. But again, when you have a lack of recruiting results outside of Gunnar Stockton, at least, it's a situation where you don't have a whole lot to lose by making a coaching change. I do agree. It is a volatile year. And like I said, Johnny, it's something where I feel like this has been a long overdue situation. This is a spillover. If I was South Carolina, I would have let him go a year or two ago. Barring the 2017 season looked good, so that one was hard to say after a 9-win campaign. But after a 4-8 season, I would have I would have let him go. Muschamp seems to be good for one major upset every year. That might have been the Auburn game this year. Last year, that was the Georgia game. That was a crazy game. Rodrigo Blankenship bunking it off the goalpost in overtime. But yeah, I like I said, I think this is something that's long overdue. I don't think it's quite fair for a lot of head coaches. One of the situations also in the SEC East is Jeremy Pruitt. I could do a separate video on that, just explaining why I think he'll be around for a little bit longer. But where, you know, you just it's tough for a lot of coaches, and as a whole, I don't know how much stock you can put into this season. But anyway, that is pretty much it. Yeah.